Finally, relevant talk. Where you hold the microphone. America's first competition talk show. You're in the hub.
For those of you out there who just can't get into religion, I have something that may bring you over to the light side, the bright side. Sarah, you got something really cool going on here. Tell us about the Brewniversity. You're a graduate student or what?
I have my master's degree in beer from Tokamak, which is one of the restaurant and bars here in Atlanta.
And they're accredited? They're accredited Brewniversity institution?
They are, yeah. So I got my bachelor's degree, I have my master's, and now I'm 55 beers away from my PhD.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
What were your core classes in that?
Oh, I started with Bud Light, Miller Lite.
Like horse pee.
Some stuff that I wouldn't drink anymore.
Sure. Yeah. But you've graduated up to the creme de la creme of the alcoholic community. Yes. Not that you are, but that you understand it.
Yes. But I know everybody in Atlanta. That's
okay. That is it's like okay. So if you get to the if you graduate with your PhD, do you immediately go from there to AA or what's the?
No, then you start working on becoming a professor, and then you can become a chancellor.
Oh, wow!
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a hierarchy to the faith.
There sure is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about. Okay, so you got a website.
I do. CatholicDrinky.com. Drinky, DRINKIE.
Well, that may be something that a lot of people fall back on. If our Washington Commission doesn't work well enough on our deficit panel, how's that for a transition? They said a couple of different things, and the big issue here is that after looking at all of this, most of what it amounts to me is still there's some good ideas, but ultimately it's nibbling around the edges. Mm-hmm. I mean, things like cutting $100 billion in defense spending. Yes, we waste a lot of money in defense. For those folks who are stalwart conservatives, there's a lot of bureaucracy that still exists. It pains me to say it, but it's one area where you've got to, if you're talking about mandatory it's not mandatory spending, but if you're talking about major spending categories, mandatory being Social Security and Medicare, and then things like defense spending, you've got to look at these major budget items. And, you're looking at stuff like that, and it's raising the Social Security age by a couple of years, 6 to 69, over 50 years. It's stuff like this, though, but it's almost like, are we rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, Barry?
Well, I think that it seems there's a lot of stuff in there. Some of it's good. Some of it seems kind of kooky. The capital gains taxes, having them higher, they should be zero. Just having any capital gains tax, all it does is inhibit transfer of capital to the people who are more likely to use it to benefit society and use it more effectively than someone else. I really think, to me, one of the biggest things, we talked about extending the tax cuts or not raising tax, depending on how you want to put it. But to me, that's $4 trillion. And I cannot see us doing that. To me, that's all got to be phased out over, after keep it the same for 2 to 3 years and then phase it all out. Because if we're at 13.7 trillion now, and you're going to add another 4 trillion for that takes us up to 18 without even adding any additional spending or anything like that. So I'm kind of like, we need to reduce the debt.
And see, here's the dirty little secret they don't like to talk about. The way the system works with the Federal Reserve banking, the central banking system now, nobody really stops to think about this. But, okay, so we pass a $1.5 trillion budget, say, and we systematically go over it by $300 billion here, $500 billion there, trillion here, year after year after year after year. At some point, we wonder if we think we would. If the lawmakers are doing this year after year after year, and they never sweat bullets over this stuff, it never really gives them pause. At some point, I wonder, why are they so confident? It's almost as if, do they even need the income tax revenues at all? Because whether they're getting it or not, they seem to not care either way. And if that's the case, maybe they know something we don't know. Like, I don't know the way money is manufactured. Thumb in the eye. Sarah, what do you, how much of this do you think is good? Leave some on the table. What do you think?
I think some of it's good. It's a good place to start. I'm definitely a fiscal conservative and would love to see the national debt come down significantly, but I don't think raising the taxes on small business owners is the way to do it.
Yeah.
I do not think that raising the gas tax, which is one of the proposals in here, will solve that problem, because that's going to hit the middle class, and that's the last place that we need to do that. I mean, I know that's a lot of money that's going to be added on each gallon of gas. Mm-hmm. And I think about it in my head of how much money I spend every month on gas as it is, and I drive a hybrid. And it just kills me.
And you're a fiscal conservative?
I know.
How are you? You're like
Don't worry, it's Alexis.
It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde here.
I actually don't agree with that, because it was.
Do you don't agree with driving hybrids, or you don't agree with the other part?
No,
which part?
I have an SUV. I have a large. I want one of those bumper stickers that says my carbon footprint is larger than yours.
Yeah, you're a jackass.
And but with the gas tax, okay, I can't remember what it was, like 10, 15 cents a gallon or something like that. Well, the gas prices vary more than that in a month anyway, and we have a real need to do something about our infrastructure. I'm not worried if you said we're going to raise the gas taxes 10, 15 cents a gallon. What I'm worried about is it actually going to go to fix roads, bridges, all of that. I mean, we have bridges collapsing. We've got roads that are problematic. So we need something done. But it's like, and it makes sense to have a tax on the gas because it ties into it.
But I don't think that money should go to the federal government. I mean, that should be more local.
Yeah, I mean, the states
That's okay. I'm
states
okay
could
with
collect
that.
and distribute. Why not keep it in the states? I mean, here, the report says, and this is the kind of stuff that kills me. Overall, the plan would hold down the growth of the federal debt by roughly $3.8 trillion by 2020, or about half of the $7.7 trillion by which the debt would have otherwise grown by that year, according to the commission staff. So, I wonder, why can't we ever talk about cutting the debt rather than controlling the growth? It's almost as if in this commission report, it's a foregone conclusion. We'll never talk about cutting the debt, not as if we can eliminate it entirely, but even getting it under control. We immediately assume it's got to grow. It's just a matter of controlling how fast it grows.
But let's just talk about the numbers there. So we got $13.7 trillion now. Mm-hmm. If we implement the things that they're talking about, then that still means that it grows another $3 trillion on top of that in the next few years. If we have the tax cuts completely made permanent, that's another $4 trillion in 10 years. So there's another $7 trillion on top of the 13.7 in the next 10 years that we're going to have. So this is nuts. I mean, we've got to do more. Where this is really going to come to a head is interest rates right now are like zero. They're not going to stay at zero. When they go up, we're screwed because we've got all this debt and the interest rate goes up and we have to pay the debt service on it, and we're all going to be eating rats out of wherever.
Yeah, the monthly debt service period. Okay,
to China.
So if an electric train is going to Pennsylvania from Ohio, 35 miles per hour.
Yes.
And, okay, forget it. You lost me with the numbers there a little while ago. But give you the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so what they're saying also, they would repeal the alternative minimum tax. All of these are suggestions, by the way. This is going nowhere fast with a lot of folks, at least until after the lame duck session. Lower the corporate tax rate to 26%, which would actually bring us down from about 39% on the federal corporate income tax. That brings us down to average or a little below.
That's another one of those taxes that should be really, really low because...
Absolutely. I mean, we have one of the highest corporate taxes in the world, right behind Ireland.
Second to Ireland. Yeah, I mean, and that's the point. If you really believe in the American workforce, obviously you do because you leverage them every time you turn around. Thank you, Council on Foreign Relations, in giving out money to every developing country in the world. If you believe in them that much, then why not get the restraints out of their way and let them produce so you can leverage them further?
Actually, Ireland, I think you meant Japan because they're the only ones that have a higher corporate tax rate. But Ireland, the reason they had a miracle in the last decade before things went bad, the reason they had a miracle is they dramatically dropped their corporate tax rate, and everybody decided to go in there because they wanted to make more money, and it was a very good thing. The other people in the European Union, they were all having a cow because it's like, hey, you're sucking all the business because your tax rates are too low. And even now, they're trying to make Ireland raise their corporate tax rates. So that's another reason why, if you want more business here, lower the corporate tax rates, and it will bring business in.
What about cutting the federal workforce by 10%? That's great stuff, right, Sarah? You used to work up there.
Let's do it, yeah.
Let's do it? Since we grew it by 50% in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think I read recently a story where Obama even admitted that some of the folks that are working in the federal government are being overpaid.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. That was a Freudian slip. And on that note, we bid a fond adieu. We'll see you tomorrow on The Hub.
And I step to the edge to see my world below.